Hi friends, I'm Lupo. I am a ritual herbalist, a green witch, a sacred travel guide, and an herbal educator. I am the founder and director of Twin Star Herbal Education. We are located both in New Milford, Connecticut, and also Asheville, North Carolina. You can find us on the web, and our handle for all platforms is Twin Star Tribe or twinstartribe.com. Super excited to be here with you all today. Thank you to Mason and the HerbRally team for all of the good work that you're doing. So I was asked to answer 10 questions about what it is to be an herbalist, and I'm excited to share those with you. So the first question was, what was the best advice you ever received starting out on your herbal path? And that one's easy for me because I remind my students of this often, remind myself of this often. But early on, when I started as an herbalist, I was very lucky to have amazing teachers. And I was really encouraged to trust my intuition and to follow my intuition, especially when I was a young herbalist. I was just starting to study and getting through my clinical training and seeing clients. One of my teachers said that when you're sitting with a client or you're sitting with a person and you're helping them with herbal medicine and a plant pops into your head, even if it doesn't fit the scenario or seem to fit the situation, write it down. And at very least, write it down and later on look it up or see if you can find a way for this to make sense. And so I started doing that, and I noticed that a lot of plants that popped into my head, I didn't know well, but they actually fit the person's situation really well. I also eventually got to a place where when this would happen and a plant would pop into my head, I would just ask the client or the person sitting in front of me and say, hey, what does sunflower represent to you? Because ever since you came in the door, I keep thinking about sunflowers. And they would, this one time, the first time that it was like really solidified for me, my client told me that they had a very significant relationship with sunflowers, even though they were there for reproductive health. And their father used to plant sunflowers with them, and their father had passed away. And around the time that their father had passed away is when their chronic illness set in. And so I knew that their father's death was a part of their equation and a part of their story, and there was still some healing work to do around that particular scenario. So I really, ever since then, truly trust whatever comes up, however the plants show up for me, and I really believe in the plants communicating to me. So best advice I ever received was 100% to trust my intuition. Next question. How did you begin to mold your herbal path as a teacher, and what were your first teaching experiences like? My first teaching experience was kind of horrible and tragic, but also a really big learning experience for me and something that definitely set me on my path. So I started teaching herbalism when I was pretty young. Shortly after I graduated herb school, I wasn't even quite 25 at the time. And my teacher had recommended that I teach at a local herb school, and I was very fortunate to be invited to do so. I was quite nervous. I didn't have any plans on being a teacher. I had full plans on being a herbal practitioner, and my kids were small, and teaching just wasn't in my mind. So I was surprised but excited, and I took the opportunity. And the first class that I was asked to teach was the history of herbalism, which is something that really excites me and lights me up and I get excited about. And I went maybe a little bit overboard in creating my content. I wrote out this huge long lecture. I showed up to class. I sat down at the desk in front of a classroom of maybe 25 students or so, and I was so nervous that I just sat there. I sat there with my paper in front of me and I just read. I just read through the history of herbalism. And I didn't do much other than that. And after the class was over, it was a couple of hours long or so, I was very lucky that the owner of the school who had invited me to teach said, thanks for showing up and giving it a good effort. And maybe next time you could stand up and put some things on the board or come with some handouts or some books to share. And I was very fortunate that she said maybe next time, because I knew that I hadn't blown it and that she was willing to give me another chance. And so I did show up again. And I was still very nervous, but I did get up and write things on the board. I did bring books and props to share. I did a little bit better. And then every time after that, I continued to get better. And it took time. So I like to share that story because I love to teach. Teaching is really important to me. And I feel like I've become very good at it, but I wasn't good at it in the beginning. And it took time and it took practice and it took patience. And now it's easy. It's the easiest thing that I do. And just remembering that when we teach, so long as we teach from our own knowing, our own truth, and our own integrity, we really can't go wrong. So hopefully there's lots of other budding herbalists out there that want to help spread the good word of herbal medicine, because the universe needs good herbal teachers more now than ever. Don't give up. All right, so next question. What are some great herbs for stress relief tea? I have lots of favorites, as I'm sure lots of you do as well. Passion flower, milky oats. I really love motherwort. I'm a big fan of skullcap. But right now, my number one go-to herb for stress relief is rose. And I found that over the last couple of years, I add rose petals to almost every tea I make, especially if it's a nervine tea, especially if it is a stress relieving tea. And I love rose so much because it is a mild cardiotonic, it is a mild nervine, it has this beautiful relaxing ability on the body. But more important than that, it allows us to access the integrity and strengthen the integrity of our own hearts, and to stay in a place of love and devotion for ourselves and for others. And right now we're in such perilous times, and it's difficult to be a human being. It's difficult to watch all of the suffering that's happening on the planet. And so rose is just this little gift that you can give yourself or that you can give to somebody else by putting in their tea. It tastes good. It's beautiful. I think pleasure medicine is very important. There's no reason why medicine should taste bad. It should taste good. And pleasure medicine is bringing us into a place of pleasure, and rose does such a good job at that. So as the world continues to have all of this chaos in it, I continue as an herbalist to choose rose as my number one go-to as a nervine. Okay. Next question. What is your favorite tool that as an herbalist you would not be without? That one is easy. My absolute favorite tool is my intuition, without a doubt. I would not be the herbalist I was or that I am without it. I would not have come as far as I did on this herbal journey if I had not listened to it. It is by far the most important tool that any of us have and are gifted as human beings, in my opinion. Of course, I love my hori and I love so many other tools of the trade, but the true tool that I could not live without and that I would not be able to truly do this work without is my intuition. We're so abundantly blessed in this lifetime to have this ability to tap into the plants and to tap into ourselves, to tap into our knowing, to really listen and pay attention. And intuition rarely misguides us. It's important to remember that intuition comes through our heart, not through our mind, at least in my opinion. So if we listen to our heart and we're following our heart, we really can't be led astray. Next question. What differences and or similarities do you believe herbalism has in the present day compared to 50, 100, or even 200 years ago? So for similarities, let's start there. For similarities, when it comes to herbalism, that has been the common thread from the very beginning, is not only the love for plants, but the gratitude that is involved with working with plants. So even thousands of years ago, when somebody was sick, hurt, or injured, and we went out and was able to find the plant that was remedial for whatever that ailment was, and the person survived or got better or healed, there is such an immense amount of gratitude for that plant. That is something that I think has waned a little bit in modern culture, that we take a lot of our plant friends for granted, and the fact that we have all of this food, if we're lucky enough, at our disposal, and medicine. But gratitude really is the common denominator that remains the same and really should always remain the same. So giving thanks for these plants, giving thanks for the lessons and the blessings that they teach us, giving thanks for their ability to heal us and to heal our loved ones. So gratitude is that common thread. The difference is also within that spectrum of gratitude. We live in a modern age where we can order pretty much anything we want online, get it delivered to our house the next day, don't necessarily have to go out and harvest the plant or look for it or hope that it returns or tend to it. And so we have this instant gratification. And I think that is the biggest difference from our herbal ancestors that lived 50, 100, or 200 years ago. Is that instant access, that instant ability to have to the plants and also information about the plants. Where 100 years ago, 50 years ago, or even when I studied herbal medicine in the early 90s, you had to sit with the plants, you had to read the books, you had to sit there with field guides trying to ID things. And now we live in a world of like instant gratification where we can pull out our phone and we can ID something, although I wouldn't rely on that as 100% accurate and I don't recommend it, but it is available. We can look up the plant in 1 second and get hundreds of thousands of hits of information about this one plant. It's never been like that before. Herbalism has always been an oral tradition. It's been something that's been passed down from one person to the next. And there was always a huge amount of love, reverence, gratitude, and respect for the plants, but also for your teachers and for those that taught you that medicine. And so I think these common threads, especially of gratitude, reverence, and respect, still really exist. But I think that one of the bigger differences is that our modern age, it's easy for us to forget. But it's just as easy for us to remember to come back into a place of gratitude when it comes to our plant friends. All right. Next question is, who do you go to for health advice? That's an easy one. I go to my best friend who is also an herbalist. She's also been practicing for 25 years. We have a very similar style of like healing and modalities. I trust her very much. And I also trust the fact that when I'm sick or when I'm in need, I'm not 100% there. And I can't show up for myself the way that somebody else can. I'm also really cognizant of the fact that I can't necessarily see myself the way another can. And so I feel very blessed to have a very dear friend who is an herbalist who can help take care of me. Her name is Alana Sobo. She's wonderful. And she's in Burlington, Vermont. And every time I'm sick, that is who I call. And when she's sick, she calls me. And we also lean on each other when we're helping our clients or when we're helping our students. And so it's really important to have peers as an herbalist, to have folks that you really trust and that you know have your best interest and that you can go to for health advice. Okay. What is one thing you do daily in your practice and in your craft? So one thing that I do daily is I always give thanks every day. I give thanks, whether it's for the cardinal that showed up in the morning or for the morning sun or for the beautiful water or for the rain that fell. I'm always in a place of gratitude and doing my best to give thanks. So I think that's probably my number one thing I do every day. And then I also work with plants every single day in some form, herbal medicine specifically. So I may not have the same regimen every day. I definitely don't. My regimen changes quite a bit, but every day I will drink a cup of tea. And if I miss a day where I'm not drinking tea, I will take a tincture or a flower essence. I always have aromatherapy on hand to work with, or I have plants in my house or around me. So I try to make sure, and at this point I don't even really have to because it's so second nature, that I'm always ingesting, smelling, looking at, and learning about the plants in a deeper level. So it's very easy to strengthen your craft and your practice by just practicing it and experimenting with new things. And also recognizing that there is no point that we get to where we know everything about one plant. I think that's what excites me more than anything else, is that I will be working with a plant and it'll have an effect on my body that I've never noticed before. And then I get very excited, pardon me, when I start learning about these new things. So every day work with the plants in some way, even if you're just looking at photos of them in the middle of the winter, or like seed catalogs, just keeping these plants constantly in your life. You don't have to be on a strict regimen. You don't have to drink tea 3 times a day, but make sure that you are ingesting the plants, whether it is a tea form, tincture form, flower essences, using aromatherapy. We don't ingest essential oils, but we can use aromatherapy to treat our olfactory system to the splendid experience, and just surround yourself with it. That's what I do. My whole life is filled with plants and plant medicine, and every day my practice gets a little bit stronger because of that. And don't be hard on yourself if you fall out of practice for a little while, because we're human and that happens. If you fall out of practice for a little while, that's just fine. Just return to it when you can. Next question is, what does the herbalism industry need most right now to evolve positively besides more herbalists? So what does the herbalism industry need most right now to evolve positively besides more herbalists? Well, we got the more herbalist things down. It's very exciting. I started studying herbal medicine in the late 90s, and it was a very strange time indeed to become an herbalist, and now we have so many out there. So I think that's fantastic. It's very exciting. I've trained thousands of herbalists myself, and there's so many of us out there. So what do we need more of? In my opinion, we need more love. We need more love for each other. We need more love for ourselves. We need more love for the plight of the world. We just need more love. We always need more love. Like, there's never going to be a time where more love is a negative thing. So just more love, peace, and understanding for each other. I also think that we need more trust. Trust in the process, trust in what we're doing, trust in what our ancestors did, trust that, in my opinion, herbalism doesn't fit in a Western medical model, and that's okay. Herbalism gets to be an art, a science, and a spiritual practice, and it doesn't have to fit a mold that isn't working. That mold isn't working for a reason, so we have to trust that our way and the way that we've learned and that resides inside of our DNA and has been in all of our bloodlines from the very beginning is a wonderful way. So just trusting in herbalism, trusting in who we are, trusting in our knowledge, not speaking about things that we don't know about, being able to say, I don't know the answer to that question, but let me help you. Trying to rewrite the script a little bit, that an herbalist doesn't have to know everything. I mean, that's impossible. You would have to live hundreds of lifetimes in order to know everything about herbal medicine. So trust in what you know, trust in how the plants show up for us, and trust in the experience of being an herbalist, and that it is a valid career, and that it is a valid way to make money, and that it is a deserving way to make money and to make a living, and that we are doing the world a great service by bringing back herbalism to its rightful place here in the Western world. And then the last thing I would say about what we need more is patience, because it is a big thing, and it's to revive a medicine, like sacred, true medicine way that has been around since the beginning of time, but was virtually annihilated, at least here in the United States. And it's only been a few decades of us trying to bring herbalism back into mainstream. Now, of course, there are plenty of people that held that space, indigenous people, folks that within their family lineage and bloodline held down that space of the herbalist. But as far as mainstream goes, this is a newer phenomenon. It's like the rebirth of something we've always known, and it's going to look different than it did around the turn of the century. So to be patient with what that looks like and how we get to all be unique and show up differently, and trust that the person that needs your help will find you, and the person who you need, you will find them. And yeah, just be like the plants, resilient, patient, giving, selfless, and we're going to be all right. Okay, final question. What advice do you wish you had as an herbal student? This advice is something that I was given just recently, and I do wish that I had it as an herbal student 25 years ago. So about a year ago, I started making jewelry and learning how to be a silversmith and working with silver and setting stones. And I have a really amazing teacher here in North Carolina. And she was giving a class on creativity and talking about what it is to be an artist. And she said that the artist's way, she shared with me, which I didn't know, the artist's way is that it doesn't really matter what type of reaction you get from somebody by what you create, whether it's good or bad. All that matters is that they felt something. So she was speaking about jewelry. I could make this ring. There could be people that love it. There could be people that hate it. There could be people that aren't sure how they feel about it. But the fact that they feel anything, I did my job as an artist. And I thought so much about this in terms of herbalism, because there are a lot of times on the herbal path where you're called to do your own thing, and maybe it's a little bit different than other people or the way other folks are doing it or the way you've been taught. And you might be nervous about if people are going to love what you have to offer or hate what you have to offer. If you can adopt the philosophy of the artist's way of just knowing, as long as you evoked a reaction, you've done your job, it takes so much of the pressure off. Not everybody is going to love your particular style. Not everybody loves my particular style, but the folks that do will gravitate towards you. And so I think this is such a beautiful way to look at things. Like, even if someone's like, oh, I really don't like the way they teach, or that product that they made, I really don't like that. It's like, okay, cool. Like, definitely evoked something in you though. It got your attention. It has you noticing. And if you don't like it, that's great. But guess what? There's a whole bunch of other people out there that are going to like it. Not only are they going to like it, but they're going to love it. So if you are new to herbalism or new to putting yourself out there, just know that it comes with a lot. It comes with a lot of love, and it comes with some negativity, especially in the modern day, especially with this call out culture that we're in and social media and having to perform. So who really cares what anybody thinks? The only thing that should matter is what you think, your integrity, your relationship with the plants, how you feel at the end of the day when you go to bed, and if your medicine is right for you and you are in right relationship with the plants. So that is my thought on advice that I would give to herbal students is be you. Do you. Love what you're doing and don't worry about what anyone else thinks, and stay in your integrity. All right, last but not least, I just want to thank you all for inviting me to share my experience. Super grateful to Mason and the HerbRally team for putting all this awesome content out there and for working so diligent and so hard over the years to continue to support herbalists and herbalism in general. Again, I am Lupo from Twin Star Tribe, and I would love to have you join us in the classroom. We have in-person classrooms in New Milford, Connecticut. We have in-person classrooms in Asheville, North Carolina, and we also have a huge online platform with tons of classes. We also take folks out of the country 3 or 4 times a year to Central America and Europe to do sacred herbal healing journeys. We'd love to have you join us for that. And you can find us at twinstartribe.com is our website. And you can also find us on all of the platforms, or many of the platforms. Our handle is Twin Star Tribe. We'd love to connect with you, hear more about you. And we're just super excited that there's so many folks doing this awesome work. So thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure. I'm grateful.